All right, what's up, people? Merry Christmas, everything else. I figured here's what I'm going to do. I said there's going to be 4 parts. I think this is going to be 3 parts, and that's it. So let's go here. We're going to keep going with this. I'm going to be minimal in my fucking commentary.
To be honest with you, one of the main reasons why I started this sect was to give back the horn god his testicles after being neutered by the modern pagans. And I've attempted to do the same for the druids. Now, a little bit of my own personal history. I'm of mixed heritage, from English to Eastern European to Italian to Mexican to even some African. But my largest percentage is Celtic, from the Irish.
I've always been curious as to why people do this. I've never been curious. I've never done one of these 23-in-1s or whatever the fuck it is. No. I've always been curious, though, as to why people would think that even matters. To me, that's almost like the opposite of the way I vector magic. But I understand that, like, okay, ancestor, like, okay, when you go deep into the tree, I understand this. Then the mana gets potent. I understand this. Then you're not just pulling out water, you're pulling out honey. And then you're not pulling out honey, you're pulling out fire. Look, I get it. But I've just never been one of those people to do it like that way. I don't do it that way.
And Scottish branches
So
on
more
my
power
family
to you,
tree. And from this knowledge grew an obsession with all things Celtic. The color of my hair has lightened in my old age, but as a child it was bright red. Along with freckles and green eyes, I was the standard ginger. And I hated the way I looked. That was until I discovered the Celts. And having an obsession with the Celts and the occult, the druids were a no-brainer.
We call that I'm okay. What we call that is it's lack of sunlight, my dude. That's lack of sunlight. That's how you get them freckles, man. You basically allergic to the sun, my dude. But that's okay. Don't worry about it. We're all allergic to something. They say black people are allergic to fucking water. They can't swim for shit.
Now, as I've mentioned in a recent video, when I get into something, whatever it is, I like to dig deep. And studying what is known as modern paganism,
But I'm gonna tell you what, though, they hate that goddamn cold. That ain't no fiction. That ain't no, like, I'm making it up. No, black people hate that cold, man. They can't stand it. Just like I'm pretty sure y'all hate the fucking that sunlight and that Celtic shit.
To realize it's actually a reworking of Druidism.
Merry Christmas, this is Merry Christmas.
That is what we can know of Druidism, because they left no written records. Now, some of you history buffs might bring up a crude form of writing the Irish Celts used called Ogham or but that was more a secret means of communication, a code, if you will, rather than a way of documenting facts. Now, instead of getting information on the Druids from the source, we've relied upon the Greeks and the Romans, enemies of the Celts, and most of what they had to say was not flattering. But today's interpretation of Druidism, those who call themselves modern Druids, they make me fucking crazy. Early on, I thought it might be interesting to join one of these modern Druidic groups, but how do you suspend your disbelief when you know it's all bullshit?
You can't. You really can't. I wouldn't even know why you would even entertain that idea, to be honest with you. It's like, we used to have that thing, I forget what the fuck it was called. This was when I was in high school. What the fuck did they call that shit again? Dark Con or something like that? It was like where you went in there and you would make a sword made out of like wood or some shit, but you'd have to pad it up. They had rules. And then you went in there and then you had these dorks that ran around throwing these little fucking balls that were, had felt on them. It was a fireball. It was a LA, what do they call that? A LARP? Live action role playing. No, that was Darkon back in the day, nigga. I used to, dude, I'm fucking old, man. I'm just saying. I never did it because I thought it was gay. But even back then, it was like they were doing that shit. And I'm just like, man. So when you start talking about this type shit, I'm like, well, you know what? God damn it. 100%. You know, this shit is the same shit. It's like they faking. Look, hey. And I've said this a billion times, and I hope you get it. I really hope everybody out here gets this shit. Is that if you ever catch a motherfucker running a ritual and you can see it and it's on videotape, well, then that motherfucker is a fucking fraud, and he should be fucking like have his hands run over with the fucking like whatever the fuck you want to call it. It's an implement. I'm not going to say what it is because then the feds might knock my door down. But whatever. That's not allowed. And if you get caught doing some stupid shit like this, well, you know what the elders might be saying is just like, oh, well, let it go, man. They running cover for us. You know what I'm saying? They running cover for you. They're like, oh, yeah, it's all just a joke. Yeah, it's all just a joke. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, everything going smooth as shit. I'm just saying.
Just a little digging and you realize they've whitewashed history by turning the Druids into jovial nature lovers.
I know, right?
Just the fact they march around Stonehenge, which the Druids did not build, performing rituals and ceremonies created in the 19th century during what was called the Celtic Revival is evidence enough. And in the past 50 years or so, it's become even more watered down when the hippies tossed in their...
Hey Tom, I'm just gonna say this. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm not gonna do a part 4. This is gonna be it. It's gonna be it goes long. It goes long. I know you know, and I know. It's like most of these people these days would not be able to fucking like deal with what we call the ordeals, or like the tests that are put through for you to prove that you're a man within that culture. And I understand this, and the further back you go, the more brutal that shit is, because you know what I'm saying. You know what the fuck I'm saying. Go ahead, bro.
Plot-induced 2 cents. But where do we go to find evidence as to who the Druids really were? First, let's start with what we do know. The Druids were the Celtic priests, philosophers, judges, and soothsayers who convened with the gods and divined the future. They were political advisors who had influence over the decision of kings and chieftains. They were extremely powerful in Celtic society, a society known for its beautiful art, mythology, and warrior culture, and rumors of human sacrifice. According to Caesar, the Druids believed that the gods delighted in the slaughter of prisoners and criminals, and when the supply of captives runs short, they...
I hate to do this, but the concept of human sacrifice has been very ingrained, especially within a lot of the more ancient or more feral traditions. And this is not to be unexpected. This is perfectly expected. It's just a world that you will probably never understand. And thank your Lord Jesus Christ that you don't live there anymore, because you would freak out. You would literally, your head would pop on top of you. It'd like be a balloon on your neck, and it would pop. You're not willing to understand what's going on here. Who is being sacrificed and why? To have to sacrifice 100,000 people on a day in order that the sun can rise tomorrow. Think about that. The dedication. Yeah, Merry Christmas.
Sacrifice even the innocent. Other Roman scribes claim that the Druids choose a person for death and stab him or her in the chest above the diaphragm. By the convulsions of the victim's limbs and the spurting of blood, they foretell...
No, you want to hit the diaphragm exactly.
...the future. Was this true, or was this
Solar
just
plexus.
anti-Celtic propaganda? The truth is, these classical reports don't even begin to compare with the gruesome evidence archaeologists have unearthed. In southern France, a Celtic sanctuary from the 3rd century BCE yields concrete evidence of severed human heads used in rituals. In this Iron Age walled fort was a cultic shrine where real and sculpted human heads were exhibited. In Britain, in the 1980s, the bog mummified body of a Druidic sacrifice, Lindo Man, came to light, killed about the time of the Roman invasions. Then came the discovery in the year 2000 of 150 human skeletons found in a cave in England. Evidence shows that the Druids may have killed their victims in a single event. It's possible that the Roman invasion itself was responsible for the escalation in the Druids' ritualized slaughter, according to the researchers.
Okay, and what I want you to understand, Tom, is that this is the same thing that the Christians call for the propitiation of sins, a sacrifice for the forgiveness of sins. And in this case, with these, it's not just the Scandinavians. It's a bunch of other people too. Is that you think that somehow there's an offering that can be made, and it's always a blood offering. So, and it doesn't matter like whose name is on the fucking tombstone. There's going to be a tombstone, and there's going to be a name etched into it. And no, I don't mean the tombstone literally, because that's not what happens. The tombstone is the sun dance. You know what the sun dance is, right, Tom? I hope you do.
Did the Druids do this to appease the gods, to get some help against the Romans? Now, is it fair to judge the Druids through a 21st century perspective? No, it's not fair to judge any culture of the ancient past with the values of today.
I would argue that it's not valid to ever judge anyone based on anything. That's Matthew 7, verse 1 from the Bible. Look, I can't judge you, man. You can't judge me. The only thing we can do is come to a disagreement, in which case then there has to be some kind of a, how do you put that? When you and somebody else come to loggerheads, there's going to have to be some kind of settlement to where we can both walk away with a little bit of pride or some shit. I'm not your judge, you're not mine. And yeah, the world was brutal back then. Keep going, bro.
That's called presentism. The Celts were a people of their time, and no matter what the modern Druids and pagans might think, it wasn't a peaceful age of happy moo-moo-clad folk in tune with nature, hugging trees and prancing with bunnies. It was a brutal age where people did what they needed to do to survive. And if that meant appeasing the gods with human sacrifice, then so be it.
Exactly. Oh, this is another one.
Thomas, when did you...
I should probably... What is this? Diamond Dallas Page? Yeah, I should probably... I might have to do a part 4. I didn't want to do a part 4, but this is... He cut it off here and... Yeah, probably have to do a part 4. I love these. Hey, man. Not too much disagreement, but if I do have one, I'll tell you. I have no problem telling with disagreements. Merry Christmas, bro. Merry Christmas to everybody out there watching this. Don't take things too seriously. At the end of the day, it's all a comic book, except unless you're Tom Leroy, in which case you take it real seriously because you're bow hunting and you're Joe Rogan. And, there's a medium there, and you can find it, and you can handle your business and still understand comic books. Love everybody out there. Everybody be cool. Lisa, haven't said a word to you in, you know, a long time. And so I have to put your name out there just, you know, to get that, you know, what do they call it, the mojo, just where I put the, you know, respect on your name, and then that just props you up a little bit. Merry Christmas, Merry Yule, however you celebrate, whatever you do, you know, be cool. I don't even know.